Welcome to FitBody Lifestyle, the show where we dive deep into the world of fitness, health, business, relationships, and the art of living a balanced life. I'm Jami.
And I'm Greg, and we're here to give you the benefit of our experiences in the fitness and bodybuilding industry, the corporate world, running a business, personal development, and building healthy relationships.
Whether you're sweating it out in the gym, hustling in your business, or seeking balance in your everyday life, you're in the right place.
So lace up those sneakers and grab that water bottle, and let's get ready to transform our minds, our bodies, and our lives. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of FitBody Lifestyle. And we are, well, first of all, I'm here with my partner in crime, Miss Jami. Hey. And we are very honored to have a special guest today with us, Miss Joanna Dara with Hormone Logics. And
Joanna's the one that keeps me healthy and
keeps me healthy,
our athletes healthy. And so she's going to give us a lot of advice today on how to keep you healthy. So Joanna, just tell a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it. I mean, it means a lot to me, only more so because you guys are very dear friends of mine and family, like we said. So we've all become a family. So thank you. It means a lot. About me, Joanna.
Give us a little background.
So I've been with Hormone Logics now for almost 13 years in December. Licensed nutritionist, dietitian, became a hormone specialist 10 years ago when we realized that, it's diet is one thing, but if your hormones don't work, we hit a brick wall. So realizing how important the hormone world was, but such a lack of knowledge with it with women. It was always such a male dominant thing. And then really wanted to bring to fruition the importance of it. So been doing that. I am 50. I turned 50 this year.
Congratulations.
Tough one, but made it. Have a almost 30-year-old son who is the light of my life and the heart in my attack. So
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, but the best. Born in New York, raised in Florida my whole life, and really have just been in the fitness and health world my entire life. So I really always enjoyed it and kind of venturing in this direction. I actually wanted to go to med school, and that swayed a little bit when I found out I was pregnant with my son at 20 years old. So we just made some maneuvers and got into nutrition and just really loving health and hormones and making people healthy. Getting to that root cause is always my biggest thing.
And that is the topic of our conversation today, which is really optimizing your health. And so everybody knows this out the gate. It's going to be a two-part episode. So this part one, we're just going to talk kind of about the fundamentals and the basic and the importance of labs to kind of maybe start us out.
There's two things like I really want to talk about is one is advocating for yourself, because I think you can talk a little bit more about your background and how that came, how you learned, even though you already knew how important it is to advocate for yourself, and then also talking about blood work and how important that is. And I think that, we're realizing, at least a lot of us are realizing now, that we have to advocate for ourselves and to a certain extent take our health into our own hands. Like, obviously we want to utilize our medical professionals and things like that, but unless we go in, unless we're paying attention to what's going on in our bodies and we're able to articulate it and able to at least understand a little bit, then we're kind of flying blind. Would you agree?
100%. Because you go to your doctor and they look at some basic stuff and they say you're fine, and there's something not right, and you just don't know, but you look fine. So that's all that matters. And these couple of markers say you're fine. So be on your way until you're not.
Well, I think there's also a fear factor too, that if the doctor says I'm fine, even though I'm feeling this way, and I mean, I ran into this with my mother in particular, is that her mother had died in the hospital, and so she was deathly afraid of the hospital. She was deathly afraid of the doctor, and just because you don't want to hear that news. But if you don't hear that news, what's the other side of that equation? It's it's almost like a cost-benefit analysis. And so I think a lot of people are afraid, and I'll be honest, there are times when I'm afraid. I don't want to hear that news. I don't want to hear that I have to take a medication, or I don't want to hear that I have to go get a procedure, or I don't want to hear that I have to go in for more testing. I mean, that's just not always pleasant, but it's better than the alternative. And I think that's part of what getting people to advocate for themselves really centers around, is overcoming that fear.
Listen, I'll just be honest. I mean, I'm fearful sometimes too. I mean, I'll do my blood work and I just wait, and you wait for the results to come back. And it's understandable, even being in it and even knowing that, okay, I have the evidence. Now I know what I need to do. And then you move forward and fix the problem per se. But it's understandable if you're fearful, especially if you don't understand it and you don't know it and then you hear these big words or scary words like cancer. And what? Because what do you associate cancer with? Not realizing that, there's so much more out there now that can help you get through it. And so it is a very scary thing to talk to a doctor, but having a baseline, being proactive with your health as early on as you can, the younger the better, getting that full baseline. So you know what, next year when things feel a little bit off, you can run those labs again and go, oh, that would be why. Because here's where I was last year. There's where that makes sense why I'm feeling how I am now.
Right. Taking it like more from a preventative sort of 100%. Idea standpoint. Because if we don't know where we started from and we start having symptoms, then we don't really know, has something changed? And if so, what has changed?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Really having the ability to drive your own car, meaning drive your own health, but getting behind the wheel and say, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to get to this place by going these directions. How do you start out behind the wheel of the car? You're in control. You're in control by finding out everything about yourself, learning as much as you can from a standpoint that will help you excel at being better, healthier, happier, and it doesn't even have to be in fitness. It just has brain health, gut health, family, life, how you associate with your children. You're not so tired when you get home at night. How many people go to work all day and they get home and they're exhausted and they have their children who they haven't seen all day and you can't even be there for them. You can't because you're so tired. But that's what it's supposed to be like, right? That's what you think.
It's your normal.
It's your normal, right?
It's your normal. Yeah.
It's what you know. And you don't know until you know.
Right.
There was a commercial years ago that used to say, and I don't remember what it was, but I do remember the tagline, which was, and knowing is half the battle. And I do think about that a lot because knowing is half the battle. And then the other half of the battle is application of what is the remedy for whatever it is that you're dealing with. But on top of this, there was an old movie with Jim Carrey called The Truman Show, where he lived in a bubble, and all he knew was that reality, and he was comfortable in that reality until he discovered there's a whole different reality outside of that bubble. And oftentimes that's what the labs can help you get into, is that separate reality that is really your reality, but just the denial of that, because what we accept on a daily basis in terms of symptoms or how we feel as being quote unquote normal, because that's how you feel, that does not mean it's normal, or that does not mean you can't feel better.
How many people tell you that I didn't realize, with working out in general, even this morning, I didn't realize I wasn't doing that exercise right until now I know what I'm feeling. I actually feel it. So same thing as patients saying, I didn't realize how bad I felt until I felt better. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize, I couldn't believe that my numbers look like this. And I think I feel good. Imagine if I actually had better numbers, I would feel better.
Well, and it's so interesting how, I feel like that we're so quick to treat symptoms and not dig into root cause. And this is, I do think is a shortcoming of kind of our mindset in general and our in kind of the mindset in the medical world. A lot of times it's just kind of putting a finger in the dam, it's like the dam is, and it's like we're running out of fingers and toes here, instead of actually like digging in and going, okay, what's wrong? And I'd love for if you're open to sharing a little bit about your story and your background, because I think it does help give you insight and compassion in helping people understand why it's more important to dig deeper.
So, I had been, like I said, I grew up, in the health world, but I've been in fitness. I've been competing since 2011. In 2017, I found Jami, and it was my life changing. And I say it all the time that she saved my life in more ways than one, because, we were going through and she's like, this is when we send you, Joanna, like, we can't get your calories up. Like, we're stuck. And like, I know you're doing this, but you're stuck. And I'm like, I know. You're like, I'm tired. I definitely see some markers in my blood work that maybe, certain things were going up, like a glucose, which was totally in most world unrelated to what I had. But my glucose was going up. I eat super clean. Like, there's no reason for that. I had put on about 13 pounds in this, no reason, not like 13 pounds in an off season, which is okay, for no reason, like just, and my face was very swollen. My hands were swollen. I was going through some stressful times at the time too. So I was blaming it on that, like a move and all of the things that was going on. But she's like, we're sending you to you. We got to figure you out. So I did some more blood work. I'm like, my TSH level's a little up more so. It's not optimal. Optimal, 1.5, 1.6. I was 2.2, 2.3. My glucose was going up, which was trending my A1C up. I'm not a sugar, no reason for that. Carbs, there was no reason. Like, I'm really tired.
Well, there is a reason, right?
There's a reason.
There was no apparent reason.
Yeah.
There was no apparent reason for it, but, and then my cortisol was even level, managing it, which is a whole nother story, but I was internalizing my stress at that point, which then led to gut. But so I decided to go see a doctor, and my doctor at our office at the time said to me, Joanna, there's something going on. I would go see an endocrinologist. Like, that's the first thing I would say. Your voice sounds a little scratchy. Yeah, I would just go see an endocrinologist. So I said, okay. And I walked into the office and I sat down, and she's like, your levels look fine. Okay, you just saw 2. There's no more here. I didn't even give you the rest of them. I had a book, like trending book. And she's like, well, your TSH is fine. I said, okay, this isn't going to work clearly. She's like, listen, you're over 40. You're trying to compete. At some point, we just have to come to terms with the fact that as we get older, our hormones are going to shift. Mind you, I'm a hormone specialist. I am by no means a medical provider. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an MD, but I'm a hormone specialist who's been doing this for a long time. It's not my hormones. It's not my hormones. So she said, at some point you have to hang up the heels. Like, we come to terms with age. And I said, and you are the reason why Hormone Logics and places like us are open. Thank you for your time. And I walked out. Saw another doctor, and he's like, oh, yeah, I would just say that your numbers are a little bit off here. We could give you thyroid medication. We'll give you some Synthroid. I'm like, okay. But that's a whole nother thing, because you're giving me an inactive form of thyroid hormone, which isn't helping my symptoms of being tired if there's something going on. So somebody referred me to another doctor who didn't take my insurance, who I cash paid for. And I walked in, and she listened to me for all of the 10 minutes.
Endocrinologist?
Endocrinologist. And she listened to me. And at that point, I said, I just need you to hear, like, I sound like I smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, never smoked one in my life. I'm exhausted. I know you don't want to hear about weight, but I've put on weight. I know I may not look it to you, but for me, she's like, well, whether she believed me or not, honestly, she felt my neck. She's like, yeah, it feels a little bit hard. We'll send you to get an ultrasound. Thank you. 3 days later, got the call that I had multiple nodules on my thyroid. She had already had her staff look up, because she didn't take my insurance. I cash paid for her, so she had already found a second-level endocrinologist that took my insurance. I'm like, the fact that you're having the time to do that. She's like, we made the phone call. If you're okay with the drive, they're in, down south from me. I said, okay. I went. I'd like you to get a biopsy. Got to there, laid down on the table, did a needle biopsy, and within the second of it being in my neck, the needle, he's like, you're lighting up like a Christmas tree. You have Hashimoto's. Well, in 2018, we didn't test for Hashimoto's. I knew the autoimmune, had no idea how many people had it. Hindsight now, we tested on all of our girls, rule it out. But I was like, oh, that's it. Now I know what autoimmune symptoms are, everything I was feeling. But he's like, but I think you have some other stuff going on. We're going to, run some more labs, and we'll run more testing on the biopsy, and we'll call you. 24 hours later, called me, and he said, you have papillary thyroid cancer. It's in your lymph nodes. It's in your strap muscle. We would like to do an emergency removal. But the reason why we'd like to make an emergency is because it's in your lymph nodes, and we don't know if you are a cusp of a medullary thyroid cancer, which will spread anywhere in your body, because we don't know, because the lymph nodes that look like they're infected are in your strap muscle, which is infected. So I actually called Jami, like, in tears, and then was like, well, put on your big girl pants and let's go. What do we got to do? Because something's got to give, and now I have an answer. I'm not crazy, thank God. Maybe a little, but enough, like normal crazy. But I mean, at that point, it was like got the surgery. I had full thyroidectomy. They removed 17 lymph nodes, 6 of which were infected, all within the strap muscle, which is where I'm on that borderline because they still don't know if it's medullary or papillary. So I had an external beam. I had external beam radiation 3 times, and then I had radioactive ion therapy, which basically was the worst experience of my entire life because you sit alone in a room with paper plates and plastic forks, and your seats are saran wrapped, and you can't talk on a phone unless you use a burner phone that you're going to throw away because you are radioactive for 7 days, all alone. It was probably the saddest time of my entire life, with a scar from, here to here around my neck, and, at that point, feeling overweight and exhausted still because now I have no engine of my car, like it's gone. They haven't figured out my meds yet, so it was just a lot. And I was really in like a deep place, and it took me 5 days of being like that, and then I finally was like, knock it off. Like, this is your platform. You are never going to let another woman be told that they're fine or they're too old and that they need to hang up their heels. And those doctors can kick rocks with open toe shoes because I have zero tolerance for that. And that was it. I was always so passionate about it, but it just took me to another level. I did all my research on the tests that need to be run. I can't physically do an ultrasound for the patient over the phone or in our office, but I sure know the symptoms, and I know how to tell them to advocate for themselves. And I will send them, if I see their labs come back a certain way, I will tell them exactly what to say and even how to exaggerate what they're feeling to get that demanding testing to rule it out. Just rule it out. And over the years, we have now found 6 women who have had thyroid cancer who
were otherwise told they were fine.
And numerous people I know, just you and I together with Hashimoto's.
So many.
Numerous, more than I can honestly even count, because now every single time we'd run those initial labs, like you said,
people that you don't even realize.
One time you rule it out.
Yeah, just rule it out. And if their numbers are trending up, we start to focus on anti-inflammatory things, keeping it, and you just check it. It's a $38.88 test. Shame on the doctors for not running them. You know when they'll run it? You know when you'll find out you have Hashimoto's in the Western medicine world? When your TSH is through the roof because it's already destroyed the tissue of your thyroid. Your TSH is through the roof. They're like, oh, here, you're hypothyroid. Subsequently, we've actually found that you have Hashimoto's too randomly too. Well, if I had found that out earlier on, we could have made the changes to slow down or possibly put into remission this autoimmune. At least give me the opportunity. Put me in the driver's seat.
Well, the whole concept of differential diagnosis is based on that, of ruling things out in order to find out what is the root cause.
Rule out and find out.
And that among many other things is the downside of Western medicine, of allopathy, is that the term, is it? And it just, we could spend a whole time just talking about that. I'd rather talk about the stuff that is forward thinking. But thank you but I don't want to go past the story and the power of that story, Joanna, because that is what makes you who you are. We have seen the care that you deliver to our chosen family, and I say our because it's not just Jamie's and mine, it's yours. I mean, you take these, we approach this as a family and as a team because no one of us is right. It's having that combination approach of different perspectives. And, in the corporate world, it was diverse thinking, right? Diverse thinking produces the best results. And that is what we are bringing to this area of fitness and training, is that we want different perspectives. There is no wrong perspective. There are just different perspectives. And having that collaboration is what gets us to the best result.
100% agreed. I mean, we make a very good team because, knowledge is power and no one's all-knowing. So one person isn't all-knowing. So That's why you take everything, the collaborative effort with all of us, and then you listen. If you don't have ears, you're never going to learn. And that's what I say to just the initial conversation you have with a patient when you first get on the phone with them, when they say, well, how do you work and how much are you? Okay, how about you tell me why you're calling me? And as soon as you open that door and have that conversation, whether you come to me or not, they get off, I no doubt they'll get off that call and they'll go with myself or any of my coworkers, they get off that call and go, they really asked me about me.
I'm seen and heard. I'm seen and I'm heard.
Yeah.
Right.
And
which is not what you were getting
at all
when you went through your story.
No, because I was over 40 and competing, and I needed to just learn that it was time, dig the hole at that point. I'm like, you clearly just to touch on that. So I speak at I was invited in 2020 when the COVID was going on. They do ThyCan events, which are thyroid cancer survivor events. And there's thousands of people that go to the events, but they had asked me to do it virtually. And I had the opportunity to speak, and it was great. I did this thing, and they brought me back in 2021. And in 2021, I sat in the room, and there were a lot of doctors up in the front. And if you ever want to know about some coming full circle, they always ask you to tell your story. And the first doctor that told me that I was in that room.
Wow.
And I have chills thinking about it, because I hope to God that she heard me, because I said it so clear as day. If you are a practitioner or if you are a patient in this room and you have a doctor or you are a doctor and they don't hear you or you're not hearing them and you blame it on age or they've blamed it on age or what you're doing, you tell them that they are wrong and you advocate for yourself and you move elsewhere. And if any doctor does that, I go, because the doctor that did it to me, I hope they change their practice after they leave this room, knowing that I walked around. Because
Wow.
I asked my endocrinologist that did my surgery and an oncologist, I said, how long do you think it would have taken before my blood work actually caught up to what was going on?
After it's
He's
too
like,
late.
I don't know, Joanna, a couple years. And what if? Who knows? I won't have to know, but what if? And how sick do you have to be before they'll listen to you?
Yeah.
Because it's always reactive.
Well, because part of the orientation
problems.
is fixing problems instead of preventing problems. And that's a whole nother topic but I do think the labs really takes us down that's roadway of preventative health. So maybe let's start there.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because I know, first of all, you talked about don't wait until, till there's an issue. Yeah. Go ahead and get a panel done regardless.
Right.
Obviously if there's an issue, then you should, but even if there's not, get your baseline. So when somebody does go about this, because I know sometimes doctors aren't willing to run a full panel, which is one of the reasons we send people, because you guys will make sure that we're getting all of our bases covered. I know there's, in some cases people can even order their own labs, but talk a little bit about what types of things need to be looked at.
Yeah.
Well,
initially.
and maybe on top of that, just talk about what's the difference. If I'm unaware of this, how would I know that my doctor's running a CBC versus a full panel and a full screen that you guys run? So what's the difference there?
Yeah. So as humans, we just have a lot of moving parts, and the thing is, we have a lot of overlapping symptoms. So if you think of it this way, for you to get something, you have to go to an endocrinologist for one doctor. But if you're a female, you go to a gynecologist for other parts. But if you're, if you have an autoimmune, you have to go to a rheumatologist for another part. And then if you have gut issues, you have to go to gastro. Then you just go to your general medicine doctor. He's like, oh, you got a cold, here's your medicine for it. So if you think that way, you have to think your lab should probably encompass that. And that's how you know. So if you don't come to us, and if you go someplace else, making sure that you're having panels that are encompassing all different doctors with the theory of ruling out and finding out. So running a CBC, they're like, oh, I ran 27 panels. That's a CBC and a CMP. It's $11 for the test. The doctors didn't do you any favors.
And say what CBC and
So a CBC is just a CMP is a comprehensive metabolic. The CBC is just a basic set of labs that tell you your white blood cells, your red blood cells, the thickness of your blood, if you have a cold, if you have viruses. But even those labs, if the marker's not flagged high, no one's going to talk to you about it. If it's not flagged low, no one's going to talk to you about it. It's a way for you to basically say, oh, she doesn't have a cold, because your white blood cell count would be high if you were sick. Not in all cases, but that's how they look at it. So that's a basic set of labs. And then when it gets into more comprehensive metabolic, it's basically kidney function, liver function. It'll look at, endocrine, like a little bit of endocrine, a little bit when it comes to like diabetes type markers with glucose. But even that, there's more extensive markers. And then you can look into thyroid, the basic labs that they run, TSH. And you guys know my analogy. If you go to a car dealership and they gave you a set of jumper cables and told you, okay, go sign the dotted line of the car, you're like, I didn't even drive the car yet. What do you mean? Like, does it have an engine? Well, it doesn't matter. Here's your jumper cable. That's basically a doctor that's just running a TSH on you is telling you that's all you're worth is the jumper cables. Now go pay for the car. None of us would do that, right? But we do it. We accept it because we don't know. So a full thyroid panel is encompassing of a TSH, which is also your total T3, total T4, free T3, free T4. And then obviously there's other things, reverse T3, things like that. But at least if you can get those 5.
And TPO.
And the TPO being the autoimmune side of things too, but that's, with your thyroid. Those are really important. And then we run it up.
And I want to just be the acronym police here. TPO stands for
thyroid peroxidase antibodies. So it's basically, the autoimmune that attacks the healthy thyroid tissue. So when again, it's a $38 test. Add it, get it, rule it out. We also do the same thing with an ANA, which is an anti-nuclear antibody by Multiplex, and it basically runs for autoimmune testing like lupus, scleroderma, Sjögren's, rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, inflammatory.
Slow down just a little bit.
Sorry.
That's okay.
All basic, ones that people are getting diagnosed with all the time. I've got rheumatoid arthritis, or I've got lupus. I've got people that know that there's inflammatory markers based on that initial CBC, but don't really dig deeper into it. But that's just a basic panel. If that comes back positive or positive abnormal, we'll send you to a rheumatologist. But at least you have a baseline to go to the rheumatologist.
And I think that's so important for people to realize is that, and you look at blood tests every day, but I think part of it is, and I know what you're talking about. You get your blood drawn, and it's almost like waiting for the results of a test. And so, or like a test in school. And did I pass? Did I fail? Right.
That's a fail.
And so you get a marker, and it says it's high, and automatically your brain goes to, oh my God, I'm sick or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe. It's not. It's what it is. I mean, I don't know. There's probably a really good analogy, but it's like if your check engine light goes on, it doesn't mean that your car's bad. It just may mean that there's a short in the wire. Right. It could mean that I need to get my oil checked, but it doesn't mean your
the car's not going to blow up. Right. No. Right. But I use that analogy. We all walk around with our check engine light on all the time and don't think anything of it.
Fair.
I mean, how many of us are not paying attention and getting labs done or getting, looking deeper into it. But we've got that red light on our dash glaring at us all the time, but it's been there. It's fine. It's still going until it's not. It's your normal. But, and then I tell somebody, if you have your check engine light on of a car, you just bought a brand new car, you drive off the light and that check engine light, drive off the lot and you check engine lights on, you turn around and go right back on the lot. But why we don't do that with our own bodies? And having preventative medicine needs to be the wave of the future. But again, my platform, your platform, your platform, the people in our office, and a lot of other places too. There's Western medicine is pushing more of us that care, that are about making sure people are healthy and being proactive with their health rather than reactive.
And I would go one step further, because that's the topic of our conversation, is it's not just about being healthy. It's about being optimized. It's about making sure that you are operating. So, like using our car analogy that we're running through, it's like having an 8-cylinder engine that's only running on 6 cylinders. Right. We want all 8 running, and we want them all running efficiently so that you are at your best. And your best is going to look different every day a little bit, my best may be a little bit different than your best, and that's okay. But what is my best, and how do I then get at that?
Well, that's why there's ranges. I mean, and one of the things I did want to bring up too, and because I know this happens a lot, people will go to their doctor, they get their blood work done, they're in range.
Right.
So the doctor tells them you're fine.
Yep.
They don't typically show them their blood work or explain it to them, which is something that you guys do that I think is incredibly valuable. Like just the process of having somebody really break down each line by line what your blood work is and explain to you, here's what your value was. Yes, it says it's in range. For example, I know vitamin D a lot of times, maybe we have somebody they're in range. The range is really big. The bottom of the range, not so good.
Not so good.
You know, and
But
so
the importance of vitamin D.
right, but they might look
life-changing.
Right, exactly. So then they might look at that and go, "Oh, you're fine, everything's
Right.
good." Whereas from a functional standpoint, you're going to go, "Yeah, this is in range, but this is definitely not optimal."
Right.
You're telling me you're tired. You're telling me, you know, you're having these other things that point to you have a vitamin D deficiency.
Right.
So
That's the link, right? That's the link, is the symptoms to match with the range.
100%.
So it's not just, okay, you're low in range. How do you feel? How's your energy? Well, I'm energetic and everything. Okay, then maybe we're okay at that lower end of the range. But if you have symptoms that match up with you being lower in the range, then we can optimize you. It's like, you know, we were talking about MRIs yesterday and the shoulder. And it's like, you can have a positive MRI that doesn't have, where you don't have symptoms.
Yeah.
So do you do, and I bring up that there was a study a long time ago from Harvard Medical School where they had 100 MRIs, all which had positive findings, but none of the patients had symptoms. And so they showed the positive MRIs to the physicians, and the physicians say, "Oh yeah, I do surgery. But it's like, wait, if there's no symptoms that match the diagnostics, then there's a disconnect.
Right.
And that's really part. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, I mean, absolutely. I feel like, and it goes back to what I was saying before, you know, how many times where now that I see these, I mean, maybe I don't feel as good. I mean, I think we're just all programmed to say we're good, we're fine, everything's good, or we're not programmed to that. And then I'm miserable, I have, something's wrong, I can't. So the ones that, and then they start to question, they're like, well, what did you say vitamin D was? I'm like, well, it's bone health. People with this level of vitamin D say their bones are achy. Really? Because I really just thought that I was getting old and my bones were achy. Well, no, you have really low vitamin D and it creates like almost an achiness in the bone. Oh, it's short-term, front lobe of the brain, like short-term memory. They're like, well, I was just getting old. I'm like, it could be that. Yeah, I mean, other hormones go down, but take the vitamin D. Just take the vitamin D. But now we know, so we make the assessment. What is important is education. And the reason, like touching on what you were saying about the labs and reading them and really educating and obviously using analogies so you can have somebody really understand it, is because if you don't understand what you're reading, you're not going to understand that you're entitled to what you're feeling. And because a number isn't high or low doesn't mean that you're okay. And that optimization does come into play. When it comes to that CBC marker, they're inflammatory. You can learn so much from just the CBC. You're not going to learn enough, but you can learn so much. So if somebody's eosinophils, from an absolute, they're part of the white blood cell count, eosinophils, basophils. Like the eosinophils are the white blood cells in our lungs and in our gut. Somebody comes to me and wants to maybe talk to me about their gut, and I've been looking at their labs. I'm like, how long has this been going on? They're like, well, it's XYZ. I'm like, when were these labs? They bring me something, because the basic CBC every doctor does. And I'm like, your eosinophils were elevated. Well, no, they're not. I'm like, well, they're at a 4. That's elevated. They should be at a 0 or a 1 at the most. You're at a 4, which is the highest end of the range. That's elevated. When did your pain start happening? Well, right around the time that I went to the doctor, and that, I'm like, you have an inflammatory marker. I'm like, you don't have asthma, you have no colds, nothing going on that would be lung related, no allergies, no. We've got a gut issue going on, and it's justified here in this simple CBC, but a general doctor wouldn't, think anything of it. And then, because in their defense, which I hardly defend them, but in their defense, they see so much bad stuff that are off the charts that somebody that's not, but on a higher side, you're great.
Compared to.
They're looking for the fire, not the flame. And I think that's probably I don't know if that metaphor works, but I just think that they're conditioned, and plus they're seeing high patient loads, and I mean, and not all doctors are the same, right?
Yeah,
so I don't want to lump all of them in, nor do we want to lump everybody into one category. But I do think that ties back to what you were talking about, baby, which is the importance of self-advocacy.
Yeah.
And finding someone who really is listening and is caring. And then, and then also the other side of it, like we're talking about, is asking for that copy of your labs, because you have a right to it. That's your lab work, you know? So I do think a lot of times the doctor's like, oh, everything was fine. Well, can I have those emailed to me, or can I have access to my labs? And that way I can take a look at it. And then we need to be educating ourselves, and utilizing,
your sources,
educational sources, so that way, we can address some of those things. And I kind of wanted to just I wanted to bring up a story that I thought was really in line with what we're talking about. And I sent my mom to you. Yes. And I mean, she called me crying because she was like, someone's finally listening to me. Somebody's finally hearing me, because, and say I get all emotional because my mom, but it was because, like, when she would go to the doctors, oh, you just need an antidepressant, or she wasn't sleeping at all for like years. Like she literally was not sleeping. And so, they're giving her all of these things to treat the symptoms, never really looking to see what was wrong. Then you were able to identify her progesterone was just so low that she wasn't able to get to sleep. You put her on progesterone, and she started sleeping every night. And
think about that.
It changed her life, literally, like how she felt every day, her energy levels, her focus, like her ability to function in life, like day and night changed. And just having that moment of like, I'm not crazy. Like this isn't something I'm making up in my head.
That's the part that gets me choked up, because you see so many people that think their mental health is at risk, and that, the first thing that somebody says is, especially through hormonal changes, menopause, perimenopause, especially with women, the first response from the doctor is, we'll put you on a little, Wellbutrin, or we'll put you on,
or Xanax or Valium to get you to sleep, right? Yeah.
We'll put you on, a little Lexapro, or you're not sleeping, we'll put you on a little Ambien. It's like,
and all those things have they all have a place, but
they're not the root cause.
Right. And that's the part that upsets me, because so many people are like, well, my doctor just put me on Wellbutrin. I'm like, but you have no progesterone. And one of the major symptoms of progesterone drops, which is from girls that are 13, right before they're about to get their periods, to women that are perimenopause, to women that are postmenopause, the same symptom happens either right before you're getting it, the week before. Our progesterone levels drop, and when they do, you can't sleep, you're high anxiety, you feel crazy, it's all the symptoms that you feel when you're going through menopause. Well, guess what's happening in menopause? Your progesterone's dropping. And you have so much anxiety pent up inside of you that you just don't know what to do. Listen, I know when it's time to up my progesterone, like recently, because things that I'm highly anxious lately, highly anxious. And I'm like, it was time for me to do my labs. And there were just certain markers that I knew that it was time. And sure enough, I know it's time to up my progesterone a little bit, because the markers being, I shouldn't be worried waking up at 2:00 in the morning looking at yes, I still look at his track where he's at, because that's what keeps me sane and keeps him sane. So I'm not calling him, asking him if he's home safe, but look to make sure he's home okay. And that's not normal to think those intrusive thoughts that you get into your head as a female and a male, but you get these intrusive thoughts, like scary things. And that's when you think you're crazy. And then the doctors think you're crazy, or make you agree with you that you're crazy, and then you put you on medication. I'm all for medications if you need it. But if you haven't gotten to the root cause, if you haven't even ruled out other things first, and the first thing you want to do is treat a symptom, that's not okay.
Right.
And these women are, and then it's like we're trying to back them off of it. We can't tell you to come off your medication. Legally, I cannot tell you to come off your medication, but I could tell you could tell your doctor you're sleeping better because you're on progesterone, and that you're on this or you're on that, and all of a sudden you start, women are coming off their medications. They're like, I feel better than I ever have because somebody listened. And it's the same with any true doctor, which ours, that listen to the patient. We are just kind of the liaison, me, my counterparts, we're all hormone specialists, but lifestyle educators. We're kind of the liaison between the doctors and
We're
stuff.
the patient advocates.
We are the advocate,
Yes.
Exactly what that word comes back to. We are the advocate for the patient we are the mouth. we've heard, we've listened, and now we are their mouth because they don't know how to express it.
And knowing what to ask for and knowing how to ask for, just as what you said
Which
earlier.
goes back to the blood work, educating.
And knowing how to do that with your physician is really key. And, just the legal side of this, which is that you're basically putting the doctor on notice that, hey, I'm asking you for these things. I want you to reflect that in your notes that I asked for this test and you're refusing me. I mean, just that has power to say, I've asked for this study. I want you to note my chart. I would like to see you note it in my chart that I've asked for this study and you're refusing it. And that kicks in a little bit of awareness on the doctor. I mean, you're putting the pressure
This is the
back
lawyer
on the
talking over here.
Yes, exactly.
Documentation.
Well, yes, document everything. I mean, and it's so
100%.
important to do that because it's your life, it's your health. And I'm looking at the time, and we're running out of time. So go ahead.
I don't think we have to stick exactly to the time. But
No,
yes.
I know, but
Go ahead. What are you gonna
well,
say?
I was just going to say I want to because I think we got to the thyroid, we got to the ANA, we got but we did not get really to the hormone part of this and the importance of running those panels
We
with your
popped
blood
into
test.
progesterone a little bit, but
Right.
yeah, we can kind of talk more about the full
And
why the
going
hormone
back to the
panel is
labs,
important.
yeah, when you look at it, so the other part
Because,
of the
and let me ask this question. I mean, as a foundational question, is it normal for a practitioner in general to run a hormone panel
at
when
all.
they are screening?
Never.
Yeah.
A general medicine doctor will never. They will refer you to your gynecologist.
And they don't even usually do it.
They won't run it. They'll run a couple of tests only if you're in menopause.
Right.
Maybe if you're in perimenopause, they'll kind of run an LH or an FSH test, which will tell you you're there, but hey, you're almost there. Good job.
Right.
Like with men, you might get them once you get a doctor to run a testosterone on you possibly, but not even a free testosterone. So the importance of the hormones is getting your baseline of that, even your baseline when you're younger. Because if you have your baseline when you're younger, now I say this hesitantly because there's so many mitigating factors that could change your hormones every single day, from the food you eat to how much you exercise to how much you sleep. So they're going to shift throughout the day. So if you're continuously getting a low read, that's probably your norm. But if one or two markers or one marker is a little bit low, you have to make sure you have all of them. So we run a DHEA, a testosterone free and total, estradiol, progesterone. For men, we run PSA, sex hormone binding globulin as well. Why are those? They're basic labs. You would think those are all of our hormones in our body, so they're basic, right? But they're not in the world of, labs. So we run all of those. DHEA is what converts to testosterone. Well, that's also your adrenals. So that takes you into the adrenal side of things with cortisol. So if you're not looking at your adrenals with your DHEA, you're not going to know why your testosterone's low. Could it be your adrenals, or could it be you feel like, well, my testosterone levels look great? Well, you don't have any, what's free and available to you? I don't know. Well, you can be up here, but if you're bound up because you don't have a sex hormone binding globulin. You see what I'm saying? So there's this almost like a
You're only
roadmap.
testing one thing.
Well, yeah.
You're not.
It's the interrelationship of these things.
Is that you get more answers.
Yes.
You get the answers. Like if when somebody comes, and there's plenty of people that will come and they're like, do you think you could just use these labs and read them? And I'm like, I understand from a financial standpoint. I get it. I was a single mom for a really long time. I get it. Like I feel you, but I would be doing you an injustice if I just tell you that, because you can go to your doctor. They're going to tell you you're fine. Because I can tell you what I see here, you look fine, but that doesn't mean you're fine because you don't even have, it's like, can the baby run? I don't know. I mean, it's got legs, but it has no balance. It can't stand up yet. It can't run. So it's
Right. It's like if you have just you only have like a few of the pieces of the puzzle, but how
you never see the whole puzzle.
You don't know what the actual whole puzzle is.
I would say what's the first thing that you want to do when you make a puzzle? You want to build the corners,
you want
right?
to go on the frame of it, on the outside, work your outside in,
That's really kind of how we're just bombarding people with metaphors today, but they're good metaphors.
Yeah.
And I do think that's, it's you're wanting to find the connection. It's not, no one of these hormones exists on an island.
Right.
They all work together. So you may have normal in one, but another one may be abnormal, and it may be the one that's normal that's connected with that is not optimized to produce the abnormality in the other.
And
Right?
that's why you get that baseline. And if you go like with what we do, I can speak for Hormone Logics, we run labs like as if you'd gone to multiple different doctors, but we get a cash pay rate unfortunately, a lot of this isn't covered by insurance. Now, taking HSA, yes. FSA, yes. Can some insurance companies, I tell my girls all the time, call your insurance company ahead of time. Ask if they give you out-of-pocket reimbursements. It's possible. A lot of insurance companies do that. Do we personally take insurance? No. Do a lot of places like us take insurance? No. Why? Because your insurance won't cover it.
Because insurance does not cover preventative care.
100%. And that's a whole nother story. But,
but it's an important point,
and
an important thing for people to understand. And, to me, at the end of the day is, if there's something, for me, my health is number one. So if there's something else I have to cut out of my budget to be able to afford to make sure that I'm getting regular lab works done, that I'm making sure I'm keeping everything balanced and things like that. It's I always like to do the Starbucks analogy, because I used to spend like $10 at Starbucks every day. And then I got a good coffee maker, invested in one, and I don't ever go to Starbucks. Sorry, Starbucks. But that adds up. 30 days of
$10 a day.
Yeah.
That's your labs.
Exactly.
But if you can get, like, for instance, our labs, like, which would, if they billed to insurance, the reason why insurance doesn't cover it, again, in insurance defense, is the lab will bill insurance almost $3,800 for these labs that will charge a base $415 for. All of the labs we run, we can cash pay. That's what they charge us. We charge our patients, and we don't care about making money. We want the labs. That is our blueprint. That is the guide to all. It's you. And as long as I have that blueprint, everything else can kind of fall into place financially for you. If you said to me, I'm not, or if you say, I don't want to go on hormones. Okay, let's look at your DHEA. We can probably get your testosterone up a little bit by just using an over-the-counter DHEA supplement, a good supplement, but one that will help to convert to. But again, what works for you? What's your puzzle? Your blood work could look identical to mine. Your plan of care is going to probably be different than mine. So much, but that's just it. There's nothing cookie cutter. If anybody cookie cutters you in any capacity, run the other way.
So I think we need to wrap this up for part one of this episode.
Great. I know. We talked about on the way here that we have so much we want to share, and we'll probably get only a little bit of it into the first two episodes.
But you're coming back, so we're going to do a part two, and then we're going to bring you back again another time for more discussion. But I think the big takeaway today, or at least from this episode, is get your labs run and get a comprehensive panel. And if you don't know what a comprehensive panel is, I think you just research that. I think you can
just reach out to.
Yeah.
Being around as long as we have, we understand that we may not have all the patients, that everybody can't come to us, can't afford to us. But I will tell you, we have the most caring group of people. We are family there too, and we all are out for the same thing, for our patients' best of their health. So just call, ask, find out, get a list. Maybe we give our list and take it to your doctor. Ask. Or maybe you can find something online, but just ask, and we'll be here for help you.
So just ask, tell people how to reach out to you.
You can always find us. If you want to check out a little bit, go on to hormonelogics.com. You can see our website, see all of the personnel, everybody that works there, find out a little bio on all of us. And then otherwise, you can email over to Hormone Logics. You can email at info@hormonelogics.com. Let them know where you heard about us. Or if you go onto the website, you could put in a request for information right there. It's very easy. Click on, and then if you'd like to talk to me, if you're a guy and you don't want to talk to me because you guys don't want to talk to women, that's totally fine. We have athletes and people in our office that are amazing, and sometimes the guys don't want all this stuff either. They don't want to hear it. They're like, just the testosterone's great. Tell me what, am I okay? They want to talk guy talk with the guys. We'll set you up with one. Our guys, they're incredible, working there for longer than me, so just go on to the website. There's a form to fill out and just say, I heard you on a podcast, Joanna, and FitBody Fusion, and
want to know more.
And for everybody else, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and leave your review for the podcast. And be good to yourself.
Be good to each other.
And be safe. Take care, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we will look for you again in part two.
Thank you for tuning in to FitBody Lifestyle. We hope today's episode has left you feeling motivated and equipped to tackle your fitness goals, business challenges, and the daily dance of life. Remember to value progress over perfection. Life's tough enough alone. Find the chosen family around you to help you along the way.
If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite streaming platform. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at FitBody Fusion.